and a very warm welcome. You are watching the AI Report right here on News 9. I'm Kartik Malhotra. Now, you remember, every week we bring you stories from the world of artificial intelligence that promise to change the world as we know it. But this week, we present a special showcase of what we call the creator economy, where AI has not just crept into workflows, but it has pretty much blurred the lines of the script, shoot, edit trilogy and brought AI at the center of storytelling and providing these new age storytellers a platform to showcase their creative genius is none other than our own TV9 Network. That's right, TV9 Networks bring to you the first edition of the AI Square Awards. And AI Square is where artificial intelligence meets artistic imagination. Our associate sponsor is Ruavza and the event sponsor is Upstop. Now, I beg your pardon, Unstop. Now, after scrubbing through hundreds of qualifying entries, as many as 150 qualifying entries, only 15 made it to our esteemed jury, comprising AI evangelists, filmmakers, academicians, and consultants powering the AI transformation. And the winners will be just three outstanding creators using the power of artificial intelligence to tell compelling audiovisual stories. Now, these three are the trendsetters who lead by example and show the world that India has indeed come of age and is ready to wade into uncharted waters and emerge victorious. We will, of course, tell you on the show who the winners are, but before that, what went into selecting them and how we are right now at a pivotal moment in history where industries can transform literally at the click of a button or at just writing one query. So let's get the ball rolling with the jury chair, Shashi Shekhar Vempati, the co-founder of Deep Tech for Bharat, and our partner, Accenture's media practice head, Neeraj Sharma, joining us on the show this morning. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and not just for your time today, but all through the last few days where you have painstakingly evaluated the creativity of India's AI innovators. So first up to you, Mr. Vempati, as jury chair. What was the one thing that stood out for you while you were evaluating the shortlisted entries? Has the creative fraternity mastered the use of AI, or is there still some way to go before AI makes it to mainstream content creation?
Thank you, Kartik. I think very happy to be here, and compliments to TV9 for taking up this very interesting subject. The one thing that stood out when I reviewed all of the shortlisted entries is just the sheer power of AI, that AI has evolved to such a degree that you're able to create, such compelling, almost real life like videos. I think that is what really hits out. Of course, there's a lot of creativity that has gone into the different entries. What really stood out were the ones which tried to, blend human imagination with the real world, trying to recreate real world events, be it, historical figures, be it individuals from their past, recreating that real life moment, I think is really a sign of the maturity of AI, as well as the effort that has gone into these by these creators in making these videos.
All right. Of course, a lot of creativity, a lot of effort has gone into it. But interestingly, Neeraj, I think we are also at this pivotal point right now where the lines of not just storytelling when it comes to the technicalities of script, shoot, edit are blurring, but even the creation of new age storytellers in the advent of AI is something which is coming up. How do you view this development?
I loved it. I'm loving what's happening in this space. Two people sitting in a room now can produce a film which can compete with Hollywood quality.
Okay.
And I'm not exaggerating.
That's a big statement.
If you look at some of the films that got produced, look at the amount of the so-called VFX that would have gone into these films. It was impossible without AI to do this with two people.
Okay.
And now two kids sitting in a room are producing these films. It's phenomenally exciting.
Okay, but as the managing director and the head of the media practice at Accenture, you work with companies across the board. Help us understand, when it comes to artificial intelligence, what is the kind of excitement, and at some level is there also some resistance when it comes to use of AI? And I'm not just talking the film industry and the shortlisted films that you've seen, but in general, the sort of the compelling need to adopt AI. Is there more excitement or is there more resistance?
The people I have spoken with have exhibited only excitement.
Okay.
there is some concern around IP theft and those kind of things, but generally speaking, the ability of AI to reduce the time it takes and the money it takes to produce some stuff is that is something people are very excited by. A lot of people have already started experimenting with using AI in the storyboarding phase as well as AI in post-production phase, and soon in production also we'll see a lot of usage of AI.
Okay, so is it filmmakers who are becoming great users of technology, or is it great tech guys, innovators now becoming filmmakers?
Interesting. Today I see there is a bit of a divide where a bunch of so there are two distinct sets of people.
Okay.
One is a set of technologists who understand AI very well, trying to become filmmakers.
Okay.
And second is established filmmakers trying to use technology better to improve their output. The ideal scenario will be one of each comes together and creates. So one good technologist works with one good filmmaker to produce that output and brings the soul of the content as well as the potential of technology into the same content output.
All right. Okay. Let's take this also across to Mr. Vempati, jury chair, sir, specifically with respect to the entries that you evaluated. How serious disruption are we staring at when it comes to filmmaking and across the different genres of filmmaking, be it, promotional videos, ad films, OTT content, feature films, where the power of AI gets unleashed to a point that single creators or potentially, dual set of creators, a tech guy and a filmmaker that Neeraj was talking about, can come together and offset the large crews and the large costs associated with their crews in creating impact?
Clearly, the big disruption is going to be the economics of filmmaking, as you rightly pointed out. Just two guys sitting in a room can create a lot of stuff. The time it takes to create content, the kind of costs it takes, be it in terms of outdoor sets, the entire crew that needs to come together, all of that, those economics, I think, are going to get disrupted in a significant way. But what is, however, not going to change is the creativity, the human aspect, the storytelling, because you can throw in all the technology that you want, you can create all the visual effects that you want, but if you're not telling a compelling story, you're not going to engage the audience. And I think that became very clear in the entries that we saw that you shortlisted, that some of them were very good with their visual effects, some of them were extremely savvy with the kind of use of technology. But at the same time, the ones that stood out are the ones which had a compelling story to tell.
All right, so storytelling is not dead and may not be dead, but some of those storytellers and their careers, Neeraj, may soon be, heading towards, if not extinction, then at least, some sort of reduced wages. And I'm really taking reference from the Hollywood strikes that we saw last year, where the worry was that AI will take jobs, and then the writers started saying that even if their jobs are not taken, they will be lowly paid. And then there was also, of course, the music composers who were saying that their jobs may be at stake as well, and they may not be needed in the workforce. So overall, that entire Hollywood debate, which sort of stemmed from the fear of artificial intelligence, and now what we are seeing, young film creators, storytellers deliver by using AI, were those fears really justified? And if so, how much runway is available to the real craft of traditional filmmakers?
You talked about taking away wages of storytellers. Writers anyway don't get paid anything. Right?
Okay, sure. So, well, I'm not sure they will like what you're saying, but they want more money.
Of course, they should. Traditionally, we, in every industry, every geography of the industry, writers have not really been, in terms of at least the payouts, they have not been the stars.
Right.
So this is actually a great opportunity for those closet writers. And by the way, as a closet writer myself, I can tell you the number of screenplays which are sitting on my laptop waiting to be produced.
Are you using AI to write those screenplays, or you're still putting in the manual effort?
The ones which I've completed were all done manually, but I now use AI as a co-creator with me.
Did you apply for the AI Square Awards at TV9? Because then your jury candidature is at risk.
Exactly. I wouldn't want to cheat here, right? So, but I don't think that jobs are at risk.
Okay.
The volume of output will increase. The amount of content you'll start coming out will be a lot more. And therefore, those who are really good at their craft, they will still stand out.
Okay.
So I don't think there is a real danger of jobs going.
So mediocrity gets sort of absorbed in artificial intelligence. Is that what we are saying? Or and the superstars are going to continue to shine? Is that what we are trying to say?
Yeah, that is one. But more importantly, artificial intelligence-based tools will allow an average person to produce superior quality output and then test it quickly. So the more you are able to test, the more you are able to sample it, the better your craft gets with every iteration.
Okay.
That is the opportunity of AI.
All right, so that is the opportunity. Use AI to perfect your craft and not let mediocrity creep into the screens of viewers. Now, whether it is using human beings or using artificial intelligence tools. Mr. Vempati, I know you're stretched on time, but I really want to draw parallels here with the recently concluded AI summit that India had so painstakingly organized and delivered on. Now, to my memory, the three main takeaways from the AI summit were human capital, where scaling aids artificial intelligence adoption. The number two was inclusion, where costs of artificial intelligence are not discriminatory. And the third was safe AI, where transparency and accountability are not compromised on. Now, how do you see TV9's endeavor of AI Square Awards and its participation really deliver on these skills of human capital, inclusion, as well as safe AI?
Yeah, I think this is a very unique effort in that sense that you have challenged these creators and held them to a benchmark that where it is not just enough to use technology, a whole lot of technology, but it is also important for that human element, that human creativity, that storytelling, the sense of what makes us human, that needs to come out. And I think that has very clearly been captured in your awards exercise. Secondly, the fact that technology has democratized the ability to create content where even the most average kind of person with the aid of technology can participate in this creative economy. I think that gets demonstrated as well. The third most important thing, which is going to be safety, especially as a democracy, we have seen that the proliferation of deep fakes has caused immense harm to our electoral process, to our democracy. I think through this whole entire endeavor, I'm sure TV9 will bring to bear the very significant importance of creating AI content which is accurate, reliable, safe, and what does it take for the entire ecosystem to come together to make that happen. I think it's an important moment, and I think once again my compliments to TV9 leadership for making this effort.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Vempati. Our jury chair, we will thank you for all the effort you've put in and, of course, for your time today and all of last week in helping us arrive at the winners. Your involvement, your keen involvement in making the AI Square Awards a reality. Well, with that, we will slip into a very short break. But when we come back on the other side of the break, other jury members who have evaluated the films, the criteria on which the films were evaluated, and eventually who the winners really are. We'll bring you all that and more on the other side of the break. You're watching the special edition of the AI Report, the AI Square Awards by the TV9 Network. Welcome back. You're watching the special edition of the AI Report right here on News 9, and we are bringing to you the jury meet of the AI Square Awards. That's right, AI Square is where artificial intelligence meets artistic inspiration. All right, so now you heard that TV9 Network is bringing to you this very first edition of the AI Square Awards, where artificial intelligence indeed is meeting artistic imagination. Our associate sponsor in this edition is Ruavsa, and the event partner is Unstop. Now, before we slipped into the break, you heard from our jury chair, Shashi Shekhar Vempati, on how AI is driving change. It's time now to introduce you to our other esteemed jury members who are joining us on the show. Vipul Shah, director and film producer. Vatsal Seth, the co-founder and CEO of Prismic Studios. Vikram Malhotra, founder and CEO, Abundantya Entertainment, and Professor Dr. Anubhuti Yadav, Head of Department New Media at IIMC. And of course, Neeraj continues to be here with us, the New Media Head at Accenture. Well, the AI Square Awards hosted by TV9 Network are the result of deep evaluation by our jurors on 5 key parameters. What are these 5 parameters? Integration of artificial intelligence in the filmmaking process. Number 2, the craft and visual execution. Number 3, the idea and the concept itself. Number 4, the storytelling and the emotional impact, which is central to storytelling. And finally, the last parameter, something that we were talking about earlier. Could this film have existed without using artificial intelligence. So let's dive straight in. Of the 15 entries our jurors saw, there are some really good ones that stood out for them, from the Bhabha Files Untold Story of Homi Bhabha AI short film to Anhad, as well as to Ethrimus, all these making it to top selections. We are not telling you who the winners are just as yet, but these are emerging as strong contenders right now. So I want to now begin first with Vatsal Sheth. To you first, Mr. Sheth, as a filmmaker and running a studio that plays so much with artificial intelligence, talk to us about your selection. What stood out for you in films like The Bhabha Files and Anhad?
Hello everyone. I've been running Pacific Studios for a while. It's an AI studio, and also I've been an actor for a while. The most important thing is about how the films are made. I don't know, but even AI filmmaking is not very easy. It's pretty difficult. And all these films which have come, first of all, hats off to them for pulling it. Such great films, because character consistency, storytelling is very, very important. And few of the films have really, really stood out. I'm not going to name them right now, but they are so amazing.
No, why don't you
But
name the
also,
ones that really impressed you, Vatsal? I think that's the whole idea of this jury roundtable. Which are the ones that really stood out for you? Which is the one film, if you were alone on the jury, you would have said, yeah, this is my selection, this is the winner?
So there were actually two of them. The one film was definitely the Bhabha Files. It was an amazing film. The way the way it came out, the emotions which it brought out was absolutely amazing. And there's another one. Sorry, I'm just going through my sheet, and the other one, which was again Unheard. That was also amazing. I mean, these two films really stood out. There are a lot of things which goes behind AI filmmaking, which a lot of people don't know, but these two are my picks.
All right, so these two are your picks. Vikram Malhotra, do you concur with the selection of the Bhabha Files and Anhad? And to the point that we just heard, from the other juror make about how filmmaking using artificial intelligence is actually not easy. It still takes effort. It still calls for skill. What is your take on that?
Anhad and Baba Files did stand out, but for me, the one thing that was most important in the entire list of applicants was how imaginative the creators were being in leveraging AI. As we speak, Abundancia and Abundancia Aeon, our AI-focused vertical, are currently underway with creating India's first theatrical, full-length feature film fully generated in AI. And given how deeply invested and involved my company and I are in this world, it is a commendable effort that every creator, no matter how the product finally turned out, has given in an attempt at being imaginative and leveraging AI in at least trying to be disruptive. To me, that was an important criteria with which I looked at all the entries. And I think these couple definitely stood out.
All right. Okay. And Vipul Shah, I know you had a very divergent selection, so I will come to you later. I want to first bring in Professor Anubhuti Yadav. Ma'am, you deal with students at IIMC, a premier college for future storytellers. I want to get a perspective from you on how big a theme is artificial intelligence for students who graduated last year and this year. And are there lessons from these films that you have seen and sort of evaluated on your own? Created with frugal budgets, are there lessons for students of communication after this exercise of artificial intelligence going into filmmaking?
Like, it was amazing to see all those films and each and every film that I watched, and I thought that this can be a very good resource for our students to learn. In fact, there was one film which I showed to all my students, and in fact, the discussion which we were having with our student was like how many prompts, these people might have written to, make that particular movie, and, the entire process of, creating that particular film. So that is one thing, making these particular films as part of resource material for our students to learn. But at the same time, it's really very heartening to see, how AI is democratizing film production. maybe like, a few years back, you require a big team to make such movies. You need to have script writers, you need to have, a lot of people who need to know camera and everything. Of course, like even now there are a lot of, skill set which are required for this. But people who did not have access to, all those resources to create content, nowadays, with the emergence of AI, they all have access to all the content and the ways through which they can produce films. And that is something which was very heartening to see. And in fact, like when we were watching these films with my students, all of them, they were inspired and they thought that they'll be able to create content like this. So it was a wonderful experience. And in fact, like when we talk about use of AI for film production, at IMC, we have introduced this, as one of the subjects. So it's not just for the film production, but we are talking about, how AI can be used in advertising and basically like how you can use AI for storytelling. So whether it's news or in public relations, advertising, film production. But of course, like if I see work like this, I think, these works can be a very good resource for our students to learn. And in fact, like I have seen, all 15, and we would like to invite, all these creators to IMC to interact with our students and to tell them the process which they have followed in creating this
Oh,
content.
fantastic. I think
And
that
if
is something
you
the
ask
creators
me,
would love to do, and we at News9 will definitely try to enable that, Professor Yadav. But just one supplementary question to the point you were making earlier. There used to be a school of thought which would say that theoretical knowledge is not enough, you need to have practical knowledge. And here we are seeing the paradigm shift that perhaps if you know the technical sort of theoretical knowledge, even without knowing camera or without knowing editing or without knowing music production, you can still go ahead and make the film become a reality. So is that a kind of paradigm shift that you're seeing with the advent of AI? Very quickly, ma'am, if I can have your reaction on that.
yeah, the shift is there, but I will differ on this particular point. It's not that you don't need to have a theoretical skills. I think the people who have learned the craft of filmmaking, they'll be able to use artificial intelligence better. So
Okay.
like it's not about like you should not learn camera. In fact, like you have to learn camera, because unless and until you know the art and craft of it, what are the different kinds of shots, you won't be able to write proper prompts for that. So I think there should be a combination of theory and practical. The only thing is that the artificial intelligence had made the things a little easier for them to implement.
All right, Neeraj, exactly the point that you and I were making earlier, that the guys with the skills who use artificial intelligence are able to make the bigger impact. But before I come back to you, for your closing thoughts, I want to now go to Mr. Vipul Shah. Mr. Shah, your vote went to three very different films that actually did not make it to the top ranks of other jurors who are here in these windows with you right now. You chose Theatrics of War, you chose The Last Monk Standing, and you chose A Village of Promise, A New India. According to you, what made these three films really click for you?
For me, what's most important is that if how close AI can come to reality. And to my mind, creating action sequences are going to be one of the most difficult thing. If you look at Theatrics of War or the other two films, you can see a lot of action-oriented AI creation, which is very, very close to being real. The characters, the texture on their faces are fantastic. Uh, some of the other films had some, and every film and every juror has already said that every film had a terrific class, and they had all have put in a great effort. But for me, what stood out in these three films was that they were very, very close to being real. Also, one of the parameters was that can this film exist? Yes, these films can exist without AI, but AI would make them easier for many, many filmmakers to attempt subjects like these, which otherwise are very, very expensive. I'm not talking about Village, I'm talking about the other two. What
Okay.
stood out for me in Village is the realism that they have been able to create through very simple narrative, a very good thought, but a great narrative where you are able to almost feel that the characters in the village are very close to being real. In some of the other films, I felt there was inconsistency, and I felt there were some transitions were not very accurate. Some of the edit points could have been better.
Right.
So that's why I think there was a difference. For me, it was very marginal difference between these and the others. But for me, these three stood out better because of all these reasons.
All right, at this point, let me thank all our jurors, Vipul Shah, director, film producer, Vatsal Seth, as well as Vikram Malhotra, as well as Professor Dr. Anubhuti Yadav. Thank you so much for your time today and, of course, through the entire jury evaluation process. Thank you so much for your time. And before we go, Neeraj, I want to get the final word from you. I think there has been a lot of talk about AI being a bubble or AI not being a bubble. At this stage, do you think there is enough demand already to ensure that the supply of artificial intelligence continues unabated and AI will be prevented from entering that bubble territory?
Oh, 100%. There's certainly a ton of demand. There are so many use cases that can be explored, which we are currently touching them only at surface level.
Right.
But I do want to conclude by saying that, and I'm not saying this just for filmmaking. I'm saying for any industry, any profession, any function where AI is being used, AI is magical, but AI is not magic. Your craft is still the magic. And the better you are at your craft today, the more effective you will be in deploying AI in your profession. So be better at your craft and use tech.
Fantastic way to end this lovely conversation. Neeraj Sharma, thank you so much for your time. And with that, we come to the end of this particular edition of the special edition of the AI Report, the AI Square Awards. And if you want to find out who the winners really have been in this inaugural edition of AI Square Awards, then all you have to do is stay tuned in to News 9. Thank you so much for watching.